I have a story to tell you that I am really not proud of. It was quite a long time ago that all of this happened to me, the early 1980s to be exact. But for me, it still feels like yesterday, and it's something that still haunts my mind every single day. Let me give you some backstory just so that all of this makes sense. I had a really close friend who I will call Jake. Jake and I have been friends for as long as I could remember, since kindergarten probably. We both went to the same middle school and high school too, and we just so happened to attend the same local college. It was like fate, really. We were pretty inseparable throughout our years, and this meant that whatever hobbies he had, I ended up getting into too, and vice versa. Both of us were pretty big fans of horror. I was obsessed with slashers like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but he was a lot more interested in the slow burn occult side of horror. Things involving possessions, demons, things that are not human and that we barely understand. He would constantly ramble on about a new movie or book, and while it wasn't as much my thing as it was his, I still got a kick out of it. This eventually escalated, and I really am skipping over a lot here. It was in college that we fell into another crowd of friends, and by we, I mean he. He found this group of friends who were just as into the occult as he was, and he kinda left me behind, if I'm being honest. Hangouts between us became a lot less frequent. We no longer knew each other's each and every single movement throughout the day, and if I'm being honest, I was kinda bummed. I was sad and jealous at the same time. He was kind of my only friend, if I'm being honest. I didn't really have many other people. They had this whole cult thing going on. They had one person in the group who would sew their own robes for everyone, and they would meet in one of their basements and do weird shit. I don't really know exactly what. I never found out the exact details. Just rituals and whatnot, I suppose. I was never really let in on that side. Jake was kind of evasive about it and would never really tell me any details, and that was when he did hang out with me. After a while, he just didn't, and then obviously I knew nothing. I was never invited by Jake. I only heard about it one time when Jake and I got together for his birthday party. It was probably the most awkward day of my entire life. If I'm being honest, I don't even know why I was invited. Well, I got my answer once I got to the party. It was Jake's mom. She said he'd been really down recently, not really full of energy, and that she was sad that we had not been hanging around, that I had not been anywhere near the house, so she told Jake he had to invite me. I met with Jake and I talked to him, kind of. He just seemed so different, and only a few months or so had passed. He seemed more dead behind the eyes. He was not his usual chatty self. I tried numerous times to strike up a conversation, and it was like he couldn't even really keep a hold of his train of thought. He would just keep forgetting and stuttering and then just going quiet. Normally, he would take charge of every conversation and bring up something that he loved, but now he just let me fumble through the basic pleasantries with only a vacant grin and a nod. He felt like a shell of his former self. He was just really awkward around me. He kept fidgeting and didn't want to be close to anyone and didn't know what to do with his hands. Just kept shifting his eyes back and forth all around. All his other friends from his little cult or whatever were there. I lingered around to see if he acted the same way with them as he did with me. And he did, actually, which surprised me. He just seemed lifeless and had this gormless look on his face, like he wasn't thinking about anything. He would just stare and nod and barely speak. He was so passive now. There were a few others in the group who acted similar to Jake, but there were a few who weren't and seemed normal, I guess. I want to add that I grew up in a heavily Christian family. It was in the 1980s, so satanic panic was a real phenomenon, and it made my mom start acting a little bit crazy as the years went on, giving me weird long-winded lectures about the devil, and she started hitting me too, which she never did before then. It was quite literally beaten into me not to mess with anything that seemed evil. She knew about my love for horror, and she told me that it was sinful, which made me have to start hiding it. Once I started college and had a part-time job, it was a lot easier to hide. But of course, I still retained everything that she beat into me. So what I'm about to tell you next is something absolutely crazy for me. I walked up and I introduced myself. I was met with mostly blank stares and a few weak waves. No one really said anything, so I pulled Jake aside once again. I was miserable and depressed, and I missed my best friend. I begged him to let me join his cult or whatever it was. This was one of the only times I saw his face not be blank and light up, but only for a little while. I told him I would do any kind of initiation or whatever, that I didn't care. I just wanted to hang out again. But he almost tried to warn me off. He told me it was dangerous, that I could get hurt, that the rituals were not for the faint of heart, etc. I laughed at him because I thought it was a joke. As much as I loved horror, I did not believe in it. Whatever make-believe bullshit he was doing with these people, I knew was a load of crap. He told me no, straight up no. He told me not to get involved. I asked him if he hated me or something, and why he was so eager to get rid of me. I was really angry now. He said he didn't hate me, and so I snapped back and asked him why I could not join. Well, this cult group leader or whatever he claimed to be was obviously listening to our conversation. It was kinda hard not to really. We got really loud, or rather, I did. He actually encouraged me to join. He said that I was welcome, but that I had to do an initiation ritual and follow it to the letter. That if I did not follow the rules, I would be out. I agreed, and around a week later, I met up with the group. They did not have any robes prepared for me. They told me to wear whatever I wanted, and that it did not matter for this ritual. I was told not to bring anything with me at all, and so I didn't. They laid out a ton of complicated rules for me that I did not really pay attention to. They told me that this ritual was to prove myself, and that Jake would be the one guiding me through it. Jake seemed really shocked at this, scared even. He dragged the leader of the group away and spoke to him for at least 5 minutes before they came back. I did not hear much of what was said, but Jake was practically begging for someone else to guide me through the ritual. He did not want to do it whatsoever, but they said no, and to the basement we went. The rest of the people involved in this cult were in a different part of the basement for this ritual. It had been set up so that there was a little glass window in the basement door that people could see in through. Probably so this guy's parents could check up on him every now and again. They locked the door. I was apparently not allowed outside again until the ritual was over. Otherwise, there would be consequences for everyone, is what they said to me. Jake did not say a single word to me the entire time I was there if he didn't have to. I asked him tons of questions, and he just gave me that same blank stare every single time. The only thing he said to me outside of instructions is that I should not have gotten involved. It would take much too long to describe the ritual, and I don't really remember the specifics. A lot of it is just a haze where a memory should be. Let me tell you what I do remember. I remember I had to draw a circle with a pattern inside of it, but it was not a stereotypical pentagram. It was, something else. I remember that at one point, we both had to cut our palms and allow blood to leak on the floor, which was not pleasant. I remember near the end, I had to lay down in the center of the circle while Jake read something, and then he sprinkled something around the circle. We had candles going, and that was the only light that we were allowed. I tried to crack jokes every now and again, but Jake got very angry and told me to shut up. And this is where things get bad, really, really bad. Because I was lying there on the floor in the middle of that circle and was told to close my eyes. I laid there for a long time, and at one point, I heard Jake make a noise. I opened up my eyes, and he was gasping for air, and he told me not to move, or else it would be trouble. I asked him what was wrong, and he could barely get his words out of his mouth. It sounded like he was choking on air. He told me something was wrong. He told me that the ritual was supposed to be for me and not for him. I did not understand what he meant at the time. I didn't care anymore about the stupid ritual and the stupid rules. I got up to help him, and he could not even get enough air to tell me to stop. He was holding his own throat, and he could not breathe. I tried everything. I ran to the door and told them what was happening. I begged them to let me outside so I could get Jake some help. I could not see or hear any of them. Before everything started, I heard them muttering and laughing and other things, but now, there was not a single sound coming from beyond that door. I was wondering if maybe the basement was soundproofed and they could not hear me or something. Jake was just lying there on the floor and had just begun shaking. It was like he was having a seizure or something. I think I heard on a TV show at the time that you're not meant to touch people having a seizure because it can hurt them. I was just a dumb kid. There was no way for me to contact anyone or to get any kind of help, so I just had to sit there and watch it happen. Jake eventually stopped shaking, and I called out his name when he did. He did get up eventually. He got up and opened up his eyes, but he would not respond to his name. Then something worse happened that to this day, I'm not sure whether I really saw or whether it was just the trick of the mind. Jake's eyes were now just entirely black, just two big shiny balls of blackness. He just stared at me for a second. It felt like he was staring into my soul. I had this horrible feeling now, somewhere in the back of my neck. It felt like something scuttling up and down it again and again, but with sharp claws nicking me ever so slightly each and every single time. I asked Jake if he was okay, because I was still clueless as to what was going on. Jake, or whatever Jake was now, just shook his head and said, "Not Jake, not human," in this horrible deep voice that never could have come from Jake. After that, Jake ran at me. He ran on all fours like some kind of dog and leapt onto my chest. He was drooling all over my face and making this hissing sound that was so deep and so guttural. He moved way too fast for me to be able to stop him. He was always a skinny guy, shorter than me too, but now it felt like he was twice my size and the strongest man in the world. I begged him to get off of me and that I did not want to fight him, but he just kept on making that noise. And then something that I can't really describe happened. I will sound crazy if I tell you, but I know what I saw. Jake's head, the skin, it started to split and tear at the top. He was bald, if I did not already mention. His hair was receding from when he was pretty young. Once we got to college and he joined that cult, it was coming out in clumps, and so he shaved it smooth. I told him it was probably just stress at the time. This skin on top of his bald head was now splitting and cracking, and I saw his skin just ripping itself apart without anybody touching it, and I could see something else beneath it. A different color, more of a red color. Something sprouted out of this broken skin. Two black, sharp points on either side of the head, curled at the top, like some kind of goat horns. His skin continued to crack and peel until the top half of his face was replaced and another head had grown through, like an egg was hatching. The top half of his face was this red hue, and the bottom half was still normal, still human. All the time that this happened, he kept drooling on me, snatching at me with his fingernails, which didn't do much. But after this, he started talking to me again. He told me to kill him. He told me if I did not kill him, then he would kill me. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? What is going on? What are you saying, Jake? And again, he said, not Jake, not human. I kept trying to shove him off of me, but I couldn't. And after this, Jake, or whatever this thing was, a demon, the devil himself, it took its teeth and bit into my arm as hard as it could and drew blood. It spoke again. Whenever this thing spoke, it made me have this sick feeling in my stomach, like a big, deep pit of sickness, like my body just wanted to rid itself of everything inside. It starts talking to me again, and it just starts talking nonsense to me, telling me that Jake is already gone, and that the only way to save him is to stab this demon. He says that I either stab him and free him, or that he will take me next. There is a knife right next to me, the one we used to put blood on the circle. The demon is shouting at me to take that knife and to do it. I pick it up, but I don't want to. It just keeps shouting at me, kill him. It is begging me to kill him. My hands are trembling, the knife is shaking in my hand and I cannot keep it steady. I scream that I'm not going to hurt my friend. All of a sudden, I feel all of the air leave my lungs. This thing is gripping me by the throat. The fingers have claws all of a sudden. I can hear the sound of my bones clicking. This thing is squeezing and I cannot breathe. I can't move. I don't want to die. My neck is about to snap. And before I know it, the knife is in this thing's throat. And it is just smiling. Jake is just smiling. It smiles and stares at me and then falls backwards, and that's it. I sat there just trembling for a while. I did not want to acknowledge anything that had just happened. I wanted to go home. I wanted my mom. I wish I listened to her about staying away from demonic things. I tried to pray, but all I could do was just cry. I crawled over to Jake. There was blood spilling out from him. And then my heart sank for a second time. Jake was just Jake. There was no red skin, no claws, no horns. It didn't make sense to me. I still had the marks from teeth in my skin. I still had blood dripping from me. I still had scratches on my back and on my arms. They were all real. All of the damage I suffered, that was all real. But Jake was just normal. Before I even knew it, cops were there. Only around 5 minutes had passed by between me stabbing that demon and the cops arriving. That should not have been possible. It was Jake's other friends, those cult members who called the cops. They were out of their robes and just wearing normal clothes now. They were all crying and begging the cops to help them. They were telling them that I was evil and sent by the devil, that we were supposed to be playing a fun game of D&D in the basement, and that I snapped and locked the door and killed Jake right in front of them. They told them everything was my idea. I pled guilty under the advice of my lawyer. I tried to be honest with him, and he told me to keep quiet about demons, otherwise I would be in a nut house for life, and he said that would be worse than prison. He told me about the statements the other boys made, that I had become jealous of Jake getting new friends, that I forced my way into their group and hatched a plan to make him pay, that the others were all scared of me and that they played along at first because they did not want to get hurt. My lawyer told me not to bother. He told me that there was no jury in America that would believe that demons came out of my friend's head and told me to kill him. My mom believed me, not that it was much consolation. She only visited me the one time. I told her everything. I told her I was sorry for not listening to her. She told me that I was going to hell. Her and my dad both passed away before I even got out. I was sentenced to 40 years in prison, but ended up serving 25 before getting out on parole. That's all I have. I'm sure that now you can see why it has haunted me for all of these years, and why I was so desperate to write it down somewhere anonymous, where people might actually be open to believing my story. I probably am going to hell, but I like to believe that I'm not entirely evil. I just want to see if someone has ever experienced something as horrific as me. Experiences that you've had with demons or the devil, if that is truly what I saw. What bothers me all these years later is how quickly the cops got there. Like someone already knew I was going to end up killing Jake. And what Jake said to me too. Now that I think about it, nothing about Jake seems to add up really. But I could be just overthinking it. I truly don't know whether I saw something real or whether I just had some kind of mental break. Either way, I just want some answers. Okay, so when this happened, I was biking with my wife. The area that we were biking around in is kind of remote. We were probably around an hour and a half into the ride when we top a really large hill. After we topped the large hill, we found a dead deer, which looked really fresh. The blood was actually still wet, which was so disgusting. Means it must have died quite recently. We were coming down that large hill. We are nearing the bottom. We're actually racing each other. I'm winning because I just am. I am about to round the bend that we agreed would be the finish line. I just see something sail past the front of my bike coming from out of the woods. I hit the brakes hard. I have to turn just to keep myself from flipping. I turn just in time to see my wife flip over. It's like everything's in slow motion. She lands on her knees and then kept going. She rolled head first twice. This little white tennis shoe flings past my bike into the edge of the woods. What the fuck? I jump off my bike because she is clearly hurting. We wear helmets and pads and etc. cause we're dorks, so the damage was not as bad as it could have been, but she's still a little bit dazed and a little bit freaked out. I get the first aid kit and bandage up her scrapes and cuts. I check the bike. She hit what I saw flying out of the woods, a really large rock. It actually bent her front tire. There is no way that she can ride it home. She also tells me that she lost her shoe. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot. I saw that thing fly off. I wander off into the woods to see if I can find it. I cannot find it anywhere. It shouldn't be that hard to find. It's a bright white shoe in a dull forest. I search around for around 20 minutes. Eventually I just say screw it and I give her my shoe. I cut the pant leg off of my jeans and wrap it around my foot with medical tape. I decide to use that as a shoe instead. We decide to walk out the rest of the trail rather than doubling back over the hill. I carry her bike, she pushes mine along. It takes us about 2 hours to get out of there with several breaks in between. I feel weird the whole entire time. I can hear something paralleling us from within the woods. Every time that we stop, whatever is moving stops too. I don't make a big deal about it though. I don't want to freak her out anymore. It's kind of spooking me though. She is apologizing for messing up the bike, telling me that she did not even see the rock. I tell her that I'm pretty sure it fell off of the hill or something. I mean, I literally saw it fly past me from the edge of the woods. We get close to our Jeep. There is something white on the hood of the Jeep. I'm thinking, what the hell? So I get closer, and I come to find out it's her tennis shoe. There is no fucking way. Sure enough though, it's hers. It has her name written in the tag on the inside. She is really creeped out. I load up the bikes and we leave. We do not bike there anymore. Okay, so this happened in a small town near Savannah. The town has a local legend about a ghost light that moves up and down a track. The locals stay away for the most part, except for, the thrill-seeking teenagers. I arrive in the mid-afternoon and make my way to the county sheriff department. Outside, parked in his black car, is my contact. He is a lanky old man who constantly has a cigarette in his mouth. We exchange pleasantries, and he leads me inside, where I am brought into a room that's usually used for interrogations. Inside is a detective and another man. My contact leaves, and I get to work. The detective introduces me as an analyst from the GBI to the other man. The middle-aged Hispanic man squints at me and nods. He says, I already told you my story over and over, man. Look at the tape and tell me if I'm full of shit or not. That's what he says to the detective. I sit down and introduce myself to the man, telling a lie in the process to keep with the detective's story. The Mexican man scoffs and pounds his cuffed hands on the table. I didn't do shit. Look at the tape, asshole. I begin his interview and start by asking him about the tape. He was referring to CCTV footage of the railroad where he works. From the briefing I received from my contact, I was aware that the mangled body of an 8-year-old girl was found on the tracks. The man in the cuffs worked for the railroad and was instructed by the local law enforcement to gather up all of the CCTV footage from before the incident. I am also aware of the fact that this man is a suspect in her death. Turns out, detectives had done a sweep of the area and found a shack in the woods about a few dozen yards away from the track. In there, they found evidence that someone was being held against their will. From the toys and size of the chain and collar, it was determined to be a young girl. They found some things linking the men in custody to the shack. The detectives had the accusation that the man was holding the girl against her will to assault her, but the theory is that she broke free and was hit by a train in her escape. The theory had much more weight behind it when they discovered the man destroying hundreds of hours of CCTV footage. The suspect was fiddling in his seat. I moved the talk towards the topic of the tape that he is claiming will prove his innocence. He leans forward in his chair. They have it here. Make them show you. I lie and tell him I will, but first, I need him to give me his account of what's on the tape. His posture tenses up, and he begins to tell me his side. He was collecting the video footage as the police had requested, but he stopped when he was on the feed that was from around 3 a.m., the night before the body was discovered. He said that he saw on the tape the girl run from the woods to the tracks. She looked disheveled and panicked. I noticed that he had a look of satisfaction when he said that. He continued to say that the girl rested on the tracks for a little while just to catch her breath, but in the footage, you see a bright light off in the distance. The girl then gets up and looks towards the light that's coming closer and closer to her. She does not get off the tracks, and she just waves towards the light that's just getting closer. The man looks me in the eyes and says, "You won't believe this shit, but man, that light was in the center of a black cloud, like the size of a dog." He said he saw on the tape that the black cloud floated a few feet off of the ground. It had a bright light in the center of it. The mass floated towards the girl who did not move, like she was frozen in place. The next thing he saw in the footage was the light glow so brightly that the screen was completely white for just a few moments. After clarity had returned, the body of the girl was on the tracks, torn up and chunks missing like she had been mauled and partially eaten. The detective beside me let out a snarl and spit in his cup. That's his bullshit story, but where the fuck is the tape? The cuffed man bangs his hands on the table. "I gave it to you cocksuckers. Y'all have it, you bastards. I did not do this, man. Please." Feeling like my job had been accomplished, I excused myself from the room as the discussion between the two other men became heated. My contact was outside the door, waiting for me. We exchanged forms and paper, then I made my way outside. Officially, the story was a runaway Jane Doe accidentally hit by a train. The suspect was found hanging in a cell just a few days after I had left. A fence was put up around the tracks with no trespassing signs. All CCTV cameras were removed. According to a colleague of mine, there was a tape recovered, but it had gone missing around the time the suspect was found to have taken his own life. There was no train scheduled officially to make its way down those tracks at the time the girl had allegedly gotten hit. So I live in a semi-rural area. There were lots of open fields and old barns and dense patches of forest. I explored lots of these areas as a little kid. One field in particular was known to be haunted. It's totally empty, nothing but grass. There were not even any trees there. The stories about this field go back like 100 years. My own grandfather told me one story. When he was a kid, he saw a barn with no roof sitting out on the field. He wanted to explore it since he never saw it there before. He was a little bit spooked though, so he went home to get his older brother. The barn was gone when they got back. Also, lots of creepy Halloween stories about it that were total bullshit, but that just added to the creepiness of the field. On Halloween, the devil appears in that field. Ooh, that kind of stuff. One year, during Thanksgiving, I'm visiting my grandparents who live near the field. I'm chilling with my cousin, talking about stuff. She brings up the spooky field. She really wants to go, so I join her. The evening is settling, so we are telling scary stories about the field to spook one another. We are approaching the field. It's totally swarmed in fog. but the surrounding area looks totally normal and clear, but the field is completely obscured in this thick ground fog. My cousin gets nervous and says that we should go back, but I'm trying to be a badass, and I tell her I'm going to run into the fog. She actually tries to hold me back, but she is too late. I run towards the field. About halfway there, I hear my cousin scream bloody murder behind me. I screech to a halt and turn around. She seems to be running back towards the house. Her scream kinda gets to me, I can't lie. I turn around and follow her. As I go, it sounds like someone is chasing after me. Holy fuck. I increase my speed and I do not stop until we are both back at the house, totally out of breath. I asked my cousin why the hell she screamed like that she scared me. She says that as soon as I ran, she felt something rush past her and heard footsteps on the grass running towards me. She panicked and left me there. I still think about the footsteps that I heard. I am totally confused and spooked by the whole ordeal.